Welcome to Lesson 3 in Unit 11, A Home for a Penguin. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, how can materials change? In this lesson, students are introduced to how matter changes. Students figure out that heating or cooling a substance can cause changes. Some changes are reversible and others are not. Ice can change into water, a liquid, and then back into ice, a solid. Students make connections to the storyline by investigating changes in ice cubes that occur at different temperatures. There are several opportunities for ELA and math cross-curricular connections throughout the lesson. You can look for specific standard connections in the Unit 11 Teacher Guide. This lesson will take approximately 5 days to complete. To begin the Engage portion, you'll remind students of the anchoring problem and how they are trying to figure out the materials to use to design a penguin habitat. You'll ask students about some of the properties of matter they discussed and whether or not they think the properties ever change. You'll hold up a tea candle from the MySci kit and ask students if they know what it is and what properties they observe about it. You'll circulate to show students the candle and have them turn and talk to describe the materials that make up the candle. You'll light one or more candles under the document camera and allow the candles to burn until at least half of the wax is a liquid. You'll then blow out the candles and pour a little bit of the wax into a Petri dish so that students can see that it is a liquid. Be sure to leave the wax sitting in the Petri dish until the explain portion. You'll then ask students what they notice about the candle now. You'll revisit the driving question board to add any new questions and highlight others connected to the learning goals of this lesson by calling attention to questions about how materials or properties change. You can also post and discuss the MELT vocabulary card. For the Explore portion, you'll show the penguin native habitat image and ask students what they already know about penguin habitats and how they can use this to investigate how ice changes to learn more about materials for our penguin habitat. You'll show students the thermometer and penguin ice cubes and ask what they think will happen when we add heat. You can post the prediction and temperature vocabulary cards. You'll discuss measuring water and also post the volume vocabulary card. You'll use the materials pictured here to complete the penguin ice investigation. Be sure to see the teacher tutorial slides showing the setup and procedure. Students will use the Water Changes student journal pages to record their observations from the investigation. For the Explain portion, you'll bring the class together and lead a discussion about students' observations from the changing matter investigation. Be sure to have the Petri dishes of wax and water from the Engage and Explore. You'll use the provided questions to guide your discussion around the question, how can materials change? The goal of this class discussion is to describe how the wax and ice melted from a solid to a liquid and to compare what happened after the liquids were left to rest. They'll use their observations to identify the states of matter. You'll use the discussion to create the Lesson 3 summary chart. By the end of the discussion, students should understand that we want to try to keep our penguin habitat cool so the frozen ice does not melt. During the discussion, you'll post the freeze and reversible vocabulary cards. You'll also play the reversible and irreversible changes video and post the irreversible vocabulary card. For the Elaborate portion, you'll return to What's the Matter in Mr. Whisker's room. Be sure to use the Read Aloud guide to discuss the changes in water. For the Evaluate portion, you'll have students use the Water Changes, page 2, student journal page, to make a claim about how heat will affect the penguin habitat. To support student sense-making across the unit, you'll orient them back to the driving question board. You'll ask, What did we learn about how materials can change? And what new questions do we have? By the end of this lesson, students will have planned and conducted an investigation about how materials change with heat, and used evidence from experiments to support a claim that some changes in matter are reversible while others are not. In Lesson 4, students will investigate how different materials change when heat is added and which materials will work best for different jobs in their habitat design. For the optional extend, you can repeat the experiment from the explore portion of the lesson with different materials. You'll show the students the materials that you have brought for testing and ask them to predict which ones will melt and which ones will not. You'll then put each object into a foil pan and ask students to describe the objects. You'll have students make predictions about what will happen and record student predictions and run the experiment. You'll check on items the next day. You'll ask students about the materials before and after heating. For more information about this unit, visit mysidepartners.com.